welcome to the Novasia podcast. I'm Erin and I am the media producer here at Novasia. Today we're going to be talking about the influence of K-pop on other countries such as the Philippines, China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. Today I have two guests with me. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
So hi everyone, my name is Bonnie and I'm from Hong Kong. I'm a third semester KSP major at Yonsei GSIS.
Hi everyone, I'm Ina. I'm from the Philippines. I'm also a first semester student at Yonsei GSIS.
Great, thank you so much for being here today. So the first question that I have is, can you just give a brief breakdown of idol culture in your respective countries and other regions prior to the rise of K-pop?
In Hong Kong back in the 2000, there was a very famous Hong Kong duo girl group called Twins. They are very popular in both Hong Kong, Taiwan, and also mainland China. Yeah, and then we also have Cookies, which is a girl group that consists of 9 members, and they are actually kind of a emulation of a Japanese girl group called Morning Musume. Yeah, so they are they also have a very cute concept as well. So and then for boy groups we have EO2, and then what else? The E-Kids, this kind of boy groups that consists of mainly maybe 2 to 4 members. Yeah. So and then back in the late 2000, we have Hot Cha, which is a 3-member girl group. Yeah. And then for Taiwan, they also have very popular boy groups and girl groups back in the mid 2000s, like Lollipop, K-Girl, and also Fahrenheit, and they're actually really popular in Hong Kong as well. So they are popular to a point that actually many Hong Kong young people, including myself, we actually try to imitate Taiwanese accent when we speak Mandarin.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's really funny. But then for mainland China, I think the idol industry wasn't really that developed before the rise of K-pop. So back in the 90s, they have some small-scale girl groups, but they're actually not really that famous, even in mainland China. Yeah, and then I think the most popular boy group would be TF Boys, which actually debuted in 2013. Yeah, so this is a 3-member boy group.
That's so cool. I think in the Philippines it's quite a little the same, but also a culture writer friend of mine said that whatever popular culture was the most dominant, that's what the Philippines tries to emulate. So before K-pop, it was of course Western culture for us. And we had audition programs which were similar to the X Factor or training programs. We had Star Circle Quest, Starstruck. We had Star Circle Quest actually is where Sandara Park, or if you know her, Dara of 21. That's where her career started. She won a Star Circle Quest, so that's how idol groups for us were formed. Not exactly groups immediately, but idols. And then we also had sex bomb girls. They were super duper popular. There's also a running joke that they were the record holders of best-selling girl groups before 21 and Girls' Generation came to the Philippines. They were multi-platinum artists. They had their own hit show. They were viral. Even before TikTok, they had a dance craze and everything. I think to define idols in the Philippines before K-pop, sex bomb girls would be who you would look at, because primarily they were just dancers. They were just formed to be able to feed their families. So that was how performers and entertainers in the Philippines actually came into the industry, because they really saw it as a job first and foremost, to put food on the table. So yeah, those were the idols before K-pop idols, sex bomb girls.
Oh, so I think we can agree that in the past decade or so, K-pop has really exploded. I would say maybe starting around 2017 is when things really started to heat up, especially with BTS winning the BBMA, I think it was, in 2017. So, K-pop became more international than ever before. So with the rise of K-pop on the international stage, how would you say that it has affected the idol culture in your countries? Would you say that there are audition programs or idol groups that have come to light, and how would you say that they can be compared to K-pop groups here in Korea?
So with the rise of K-pop, actually there are really a lot of audition programs coming out, especially after 2018. So all Hong Kong, like mainland China and Taiwan, we have like really maybe 1 to 2 audition programs per year like that. Yeah. So in Hong Kong, the most famous audition program would be Kingmaker. Yeah. A Kingmaker Good Night Show, yeah, which is broadcast by ViuTV. So it is it's actually somehow similar to Produce series. So it's like a whole series that start from 2018 and then 2019, 2021. So now up to this year we have 4 series of this program. Yeah. But the interesting part is that this program initially didn't plan to form boy groups or girl groups. They actually, the main reason of why the producer want to do this program is because they want to scout talents scout talents to enter the entertainment industry in Hong Kong. Yeah. So but then it just so happens that after the first series, there are like some of the contestants, they become really famous. So that's why the producers were like, oh, why not we form a boy group then? Yes, that's why the boy group Mira came out in the same year, 2018. Yeah. And then for the later series, some of the members, they debuted as solo singers or maybe actors, and also like several boy groups and girl groups were formed.
For the Philippines, like Hallyu has really been all over the country ever since like the 2010s. So it was like a slow explosion, but it started out with people not liking like K-pop because it is a patriarchal society for us. So since K-pop had more avant-garde looks, people saw them as feminine, and then of course like homophobes and stuff. So it was harder to like K-pop in before, but it really was popular ever since we grew up listening to like Sorry Sorry to like Bonamana. Those are like our morning exercise routines as kids. Like we had to dance to I Don't Care by 21. Like it was really part of our music culture growing up. And then but with the rise of like international K-pop, we also had a lot of audition shows. But also we had first groups trying to imitate like the K-pop style. We had Accelerate and Pop Girls, which were like primarily based on how on the combination of singing and dancing and outfits, of course. And then but those were like failed experiments. But as you said, with like the international explosion of K-pop, we produce now in the Philippines we have our own genre, which is P-pop, which is a lot of people say is patterned on K-pop and J-pop, but it's actually more of trying to integrate Philippine elements into like the K-pop genre and stuff like that. One of the most prominent groups leading P-pop and is also like our appointed as ambassadors of Philippine Korean culture in our country is SB19, which is also gaining international popularity because they are already nominated for the same Billboard Award BTS won in 2017, which is like the top social award. So that's how like more and more in the Philippines with K-pop, more producing companies of Korea cooperate with Philippine entertainment companies to produce like programs or shows that would make like boy groups and girl groups. Like unlike in Hong Kong, the main objective is really to create the next boy group, the next girl group. So yeah, we have a lot of partnerships with like MLD Entertainment, if you know Momoland.
Yeah.
Yeah, they actually have an audition show coming up in the Philippines this year. So yeah, it's like that too.
So how do you think that K-pop has influenced the idol culture and fandom culture in general in these countries?
Okay, so in terms of fandom culture, actually I find lots of similarities between Hong Kong and Korea these days. For example, the fans, they will create different fan arts, and then some kind of slogans and towels, different sorts of merchandise that really resembles that of Korea. Yeah, and then and then we also have like advertisement on the light box advertisement. The fans, they will place those advertisement at the subway station and the bus stop during the members' birthday, or maybe when the members, they release new songs or they have a new drama. Yeah, so it's really fun to see like how Hong Kong fans are actually kind of emulating what the Korean fans are doing to support their idols.
And actually, it's the same for the Philippines. I think Filipino fans already had a fandom culture in terms of like Because we have popular love teams in the Philippines, and those fans are known for like being really intense voters on Twitter, like like intense. They really do their most to like hold. They rent out a whole theater, a whole cinema to like watch their movies and everything. So it's like in also here in Korea. But what I think it's the same in terms of like we also have subway advertisements now, but now I see them here. Like I see P-pop groups here in Korea. They buy advertisements not in the Philippines, here in like Seoul. So like for they're really gearing for like global like an audience. So that was also interesting to see. And then more for the Philippines, I think the stark difference is because they saw how K-pop fandoms here were mobilizing for like an example is like for BTS, RM's fans got like a forest, adopted a forest for him. In the Philippines, they also do that now. Like we also have like a lot of charity projects. It's more on that because we have typhoons in the Philippines a lot. There's a lot of natural disasters and a lot of people need help. Whenever there's a typhoon, K-pop fans do a donation drive, and they go to like these stricken areas, or they donate to the Red Cross. And then whenever there's like a birthday of a member, they have like a feeding program, or they adopt like a school and build a school. So that's what I think what the really significant um, change in Pinoy fandom culture that K-pop brought in was like how to organize, how to use hashtags, how to perform a project quickly.
We actually similar things like fan activism also happen in Hong Kong.
Right.
Yeah, because one of the member from Mira, he actually loves like natural environment, that kind of thing. That's why his fans were also inspired by him. That they actually have voluntary activities that they try to clean the beach of Hong Kong. Yeah, and then they collect like 1,000 kg of like marine litter at the end. That's really amazing. And then another member which is called Kung To. So his fans actually hire some visually impaired people to create some postcard which is of like braille. Yeah. So and then they will sell it for charity purpose like that. So it's really interesting to see how like Hong Kong fans, like Filipino fans, they are also copying how Korean fans are using the influence of their stars and like being influenced by their stars and to create this kind of fan activism works.
Yeah, I think there's really like no fandom anywhere else that can like mobilize the way that K-pop fans can. And I think like when people think of K-pop, a lot of times they have really negative opinions of the fans, and some people can get a little bit intense about the things that they like, but there's definitely a really positive way that K-pop fans have been and do use their ability to kind of organize and mobilize. Yeah. How would you say that K-pop has affected the cultural identity of these countries?
Not many people would say that, oh, like Korea is kind of influencing all the Asian countries, and then like we are all being Koreanized, like other culture, that kind of thing. But I don't really agree with that, because I think with the influence of K-pop culture, we actually all these kind of audition programs, and with this kind of local idols groups coming out, this kind of phenomena actually is increasing our cultural identity. So for example, you can see this like keychain. So this is actually like a kind of an emulation from the minibus sign of Hong Kong. So minibus is a kind of public transportation of Hong Kong, which is like a smaller version of a bus. Yeah. So what the older drivers, what they do is that they will place this kind of cars at the windscreen of the minibus, which will show the destination and also the place that the minibus will go through, and also the price of the minibus. So that's why some people they it's not like the fans, but some bookstore or some other parties, they actually kind of collaborate with the people who make this kind of signs, and then they actually create this kind of like merchandise, like saying like this the name of the member, and then like I am, and then this is the fandom name. Yeah. It's really interesting.
cool.
So you can see how this kind of merch are actually being localized when it comes to like supporting local idol groups. Yeah.
I think in a way it's almost like taking K-pop but like making it your own,
Yeah, true.
putting your own culture spin on it. and incorporating things from your culture, whether it's the language or, you know, certain jokes or just national identities in that way. Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that's the thing with the Philippines too. We actually have this idol group, a P-pop idol group, which just debuted really like last year, Alamat. They use because the Philippines is an archipelago, right? So we have a lot different languages and different dialects, and instead of just using our main language, which is Filipino, they use like the different languages of all the of different regions in the Philippines, which makes it also more different. And they also incorporated a lot of Philippine cultural identities in their debut music video. They use a jeepney, they use our traditional dances, and that's how they debuted. They used our native languages and our all cultural symbols. So I agree that although because Hallyu has been so widespread in the Philippines that we have like K-drama adaptations, like we use the storylines of K-dramas. We for K-pop we have Vanilla 48, which is like Produce 48, like AKB 48. We use that format, and then our idol groups are actually managed by Korean companies as well. So I think it's a little harder to assert yourself as a Filipino. It's a little harder to mix like Filipino culture and K-pop if you don't have a strong grasp of your national identity. And the Philippines, because it was colonized like multiple times, so I feel like our national identity is such a hot topic for us right now. So it's a little harder to like to ask someone what makes you Filipino. Of course, you're not just going to say, "Oh, it's the food, it's the music," like that. It's a little harder to answer for us. So I think what these idol groups are doing, they're just using K-pop as like a mold to like what can we do to um, make our own version of this. So aside from the groups being co-managed by entertainment companies, we also have like groups like Beanie, which is a really strong idol girl group which is made by Filipinos, and they came out with songs that were purely Filipino. They were but they managed to incorporate the K-pop style to it. Like this Filipino song, it's the coconut nut. It's a giant nut. That's basically the meaning of the song. It was a novelty Filipino song, but they made it like they made a choreography for it. They incorporated some beats to it, and when you hear it, oh, you know, oh, this is like a K-pop style, but it's also a Filipino traditional novelty song. So, managing to like mix those styles, I think, is where K-pop is today. But I think there's also ways to go for us, in managing to make it purely P-pop is Filipino. Like when you think of P-pop, you don't think of like other idol groups in Korea anymore. I feel like there's also a lot more to explore on that for Filipinos.
I think it's also like a many layered issue because there are some people who say that, oh, well, K-pop, you know, derives a lot of Western inspiration. So then if K-pop's getting the Western inspiration and then, you know, the Philippines and China and Hong Kong and Taiwan are getting the inspiration from K-pop, like where does it end? And I think, you know, similarly with K-pop, like there's a lot of cultural things in it. You know, idols will often wear, you know, hanbok, or they'll incorporate traditional instruments. So these are all ways that you can kind of take something and put your own spin on it and make it your own. So I think that maybe that's what we're seeing in these countries as well, right?
Yeah, you see that BTS and Blackpink, they are actually wearing like the modified hanbok.
Right.
And then BTS also, they have a song called Paido Gangsan, also rap in Saturi, and the dialects of Korea. And this also happened in Taiwan because I watched a audition program called Atom Boys back in summer vacation, and then there were some members who were actually rapping in Taiwanese. So they write their own lyrics in Taiwanese. So and I actually don't understand it. Even I read the Chinese lyrics because there are some words that are specific for Taiwanese that I don't understand. Yeah, so it was like, whoa, it's really interesting to see how they are like incorporating this kind of local Taiwanese elements in their performances. And also for Chinese audition programs, and actually for all three places, there are some performances that the members, they will like wear traditional I mean, not exactly traditional, but modified traditional Chinese costumes, and they will also sing to some song that are of like that uses traditional Chinese instruments, musical instruments. Yeah, so it is actually so really interesting to see these kind of local elements were incorporated in the performances in the audition programs.
It's the same in the Philippines. Like, actually, I think a new thing. Our P-pop groups, they write and produce their own lyrics in Filipino too. So I feel like that's also one way of like, oh, asserting that this is P-pop too. Like just like what you said.
Yeah. So, what do you think is the public perception of these new idol groups in these countries? Whether it's positive or negative, and do you think like the beauty standards and the idol culture in general has had an effect on these countries?
The acceptance of idol culture among Hong Kong people has been increasing these years, especially after the success of the audition programs and also the birth of Mira and also other idol groups in Hong Kong. So, so people actually after watching the audition programs, they really see how there are actually local talents in Hong Kong that really can have the potential to become a famous like pop star idol or entertainer like that. So that's why it makes lots of Hong Kong people really want to support them. Yeah. But then at the same time there are also some people who kind of criticize them. Oh, you only know how you're only handsome or pretty, and you are not as talented as the K-pop boy groups or girl groups like that. Yeah, of course there are some criticism here, and but then I feel like in general there are actually more people supporting the growth of idol culture in Hong Kong.
I think it's the same, but I have to mention that since Tara was really already popular, so girl groups, they don't experience like that kind of like homophobia. Like a lot of Filipinos don't like idol boy groups. Like they use the term bakla or like gay as derogatory when they talk to like when they point to like idol boy groups because oh, he looks gay, why do you like him, like they say that a lot whenever girls, and then it was like why are you listening to that, you don't even understand the language, it's the usual like the things we hear. Then in the Philippines I think it took ways to go because for girl groups it was generally a more accepting atmosphere because 21 was really popular and Girls' Generation, but but for Super Junior or like BTS or EXO, you would hear those kind of remarks that like that guy looks gay. So it also had something to do with our society being patriarchal, and with the styling of K-pop because they had different hair colors. Taemin, when Replay was out, he had like really long hair, and then whenever it didn't fit like our beauty norms, like long hair on boys, colored hair on boys wearing skirts or avant-garde outfits, people would like assume that this guy is feminine and they would get like derogatory remarks. But with like the 2017 with BTS and with Blackpink and everyone knowing more about what K-pop is, it became like the dominant trend. Now everyone is trying to dress like a K-pop idol. Like that's how people want to dress nowadays. So I think there was really a large perception shift on what these idols look like, and people became more generally accepting of styling themselves that way. And then these P-pop groups who also style themselves like K-pop groups, like colored hair and everything, they were also met with like generally more accepting because of the dominant groups before. I think when BTS came into the scene into the Philippines, it was like around like that they were everywhere. I mean, hearing them on the radio and everything, it was around 2017 too. But a lot of like festivals were in. There were K-pop cover groups doing idol songs everywhere. So it became much more ubiquitous that to the point that you can't not hear K-pop. You just see them everywhere now. So I feel like because people saw how it's the trend. So now everyone's like, oh, we want to dress like K-pop idols now too. So yeah, such just a shift.
Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
become a lot more normalized in the past few years, I think, definitely.
I feel like the soft masculinity, the flower boys image of K-pop idols is really influencing how the Philippines and also Hong Kong, Taiwan, and China's people's perception on masculinity, what a man should look like. Yeah, it's really challenging hegemonic masculinity that are prevailing in Asian countries. During in the audition programs of like Atom Boys in Taiwan and also Kingmaker in Hong Kong, so there were actually some performances where the male contestant, they were wearing high heels to dance. Yeah, so I feel like it's really like I was actually quite astonished by this because like it's even in Korea, you never see male idols doing that, right? Yeah, so it's a really bold challenge of the masculinity in this region.
Going forward in the future, where do you think that these idol groups in these countries will go? Like, do you think that they have any challenges or opportunities that they're going to be facing in the future?
For P-pop groups, I think there's a lot more of challenges, honestly, because as I said, the Philippines that national identity is really hard to define because there's this notion of they just copied K-pop. Like there's always that notion of they just plagiarized this K-pop song. They just plagiarized this. It sounds like it looks like this, but they really the challenge I think for P-pop groups is to really make space for themselves that would show that they're really a Filipino pop group, not just like an amalgamation of like styles of different countries and everything, which is basically the Philippines though. So, I think there's ways to go for us in terms of production because we're still our P-pop groups, their songs are still produced by like producers of like Shiny of like Korean producers still. But in terms of music making, composing, producing, they're already starting to already write their own songs, produce and everything. But I think we can still like incorporate the Filipino essence because without K-pop, most of the popular Filipino songs would be ballads. It would be like emotional heartbreak songs. Like that's what really tops our charts before. And then with Western influences, we had like R&B inspired original Pinoy music, which we call OPM. So that's really another genre in the Philippines. We have OPM, but the thing is with P-pop, it markets itself as like influenced by K-pop. So how do you make P-pop part of that original Pinoy music? Like how do you make it completely Filipino in a sense that people don't see your influences anymore. They just see how you're making it your own. So I think SB19 is doing that. They're really trying to incorporate more Filipino mythology in their work too. It doesn't just end in the training system. I think in terms of performing and making their art, I think there's a lot more to improve upon and they're getting there. But yeah.
Actually, similar to Philippines, like for Canton pop industry, most of the songs that top our charts is actually a soft ballad sad song.
Yeah.
Which is actually the reason why I got into K-pop because I'm not really that into that kind of genre. Not that they are not good to listen to, but then just like it could get boring when you keep listening to too much this kind of sad ballad songs. Yeah. And so I feel like with this kind of local idol groups coming out in Hong Kong, so they're actually filling the current gap in the Hong Kong music landscape that we don't have dance pop, right? So we don't have idol group, but now that we have idol groups, they are filling this kind of gap on like dance pop, idol style. So that's why I do think that we can see the opportunity of this kind of idol groups growing in Hong Kong in the future. Yeah, but then the same problem also goes to like how they can continue to incorporate local elements. How can they like get out of the perception of like simply copying K-pop style like that. Okay, especially for mainland Chinese idol, I feel like all the styles and all, I mean not only the idol but then the audition programs, all the rules of competitions, all the formats and also the image of the idol groups is actually really similar. It's like 80 to 90% similar to those of K-pop idols. So I just wonder like in that case like so like what makes the difference between mainland Chinese idol and K-pop idols in that case? And why mainland Chinese need to like support mainland Chinese idol if they are basically similar to Korean ones, right? Yeah. So this is actually a challenge that the future idol industry of these places need to think about.
Right, like kind of making it its own thing that stands alone rather than some sort of copy of the original. I guess one thing to think about is, especially like you said in the Philippines, how these idol groups are managed by Korean companies, and in China, I don't know if they, I don't know if they work with Korean companies when they create these shows, but I wonder if, since the whole point of these groups is to make money, right, and to draw profit, I wonder if these companies just don't think that anything needs to change. Like, oh, these are profitable models, like, you get the audition program, you get all of these trainees, you get them really popular, and then people will come see their shows and really support them. So I guess that is one more obstacle for them to overcome, is the big bad corporation of it all, of like people who just want to make the money and don't really care as much about the artistic aspect of it. Although I guess you could argue that that's the case in Korea as well. Yeah, I guess it's something interesting to think about, but I'm intrigued to see how these groups continue to grow. Do you think that there is potential for these groups to one day spread more internationally as well? Because I know that with SB19 they've already kind of started to to spread, but do you think that there's even more potential for other groups to even go more international?
I think for the Philippines, because SB19 and Kaya were like SB19, sorry, is primarily one of the face of P-pop, if I may say. Because they were managed by a Korean company, some Filipinos also pointed it out that, how do you make them more Filipino than they already are? So I think that's why they're also veering more towards showing our culture now. And for other groups, I think because they're managed by ABS-CBN, which is a large media company in the Philippines who creates like the superstars of our time. I think there's a lot of potential there because they're really good singers. Like, one thing about Filipinos, not me, but everyone else, they're really great singers. Like, they can hold a tune while dancing, and they have the talent. What just needs, I think, is the marketing, like global marketing. Like, for us, I think in the atmosphere of the music industry today, it's not enough to just be a good singer. Like, it's not enough to just be a great dancer. A lot of a lot of Filipino groups have the talent. I think the challenge remaining is if these companies take the next step and be able to like get the global market, just like K-pop has, because K-pop was able to market its groups really, really well. I think it's a really interesting to see how going forward, how they will make it onto the world stage. Because especially for the ones that are really from Filipino audition programs, because one BGYO, they're already starting to like perform with Korean acts. There's actually a coming festival in the Philippines for Halloween, and they're the only Filipino act on like the roster. And then they also perform with Red Velvet. They're like joining the K-pop artists in the lineups, and then I think that's how they're slowly trying to make a name for themselves. Like, if people see how talented we are, even if they come for like the K-pop groups and then they watch us, maybe some people would be interested. So I feel like there's hope for P-pop.
Yeah, you just mentioned that like the Filipino groups, they are collaborating with K-pop idols. So actually there's a similar situation going on in Hong Kong, because like Mira also actually plans to kind of expand overseas these days, but then they are actually starting from Taiwan now. So what they do is that one of the members from Mira, he collaborated with a singer in Taiwan. Yeah, so they actually kind of produced two songs like with the same melody, but then like Cantonese lyrics and Mandarin lyrics. Yeah.
Wow.
So they are like doing this kind of collaboration, and some of the members from Mira, they also it's like last year they went to Taiwan and shoot a idol drama. Yeah, and then he also promoted in the variety. She also like went to variety shows in Taiwan to promote the drama. Yeah, so they're actually trying to gain foreign exposure these days. For mainland Chinese audition programs, actually, if you go on YouTube, they have the full version of the audition programs with like English titles. So it's really that's why I think that the reason that they add this kind of thing is that they want to kind of expand to the English speaking market, so that when people search in English, they can still find those videos.
Yes, I think that that's a really good point. They often will get already well-known celebrities to come onto these shows to kind of attract new fans.
Oh yeah, Lisa.
Yeah, like Lisa was on one of the
Lisa.
shows, and I remember there was one show where Jun and Minghao went on. So I actually did watch that show. So it works. Like it gets people to kind of check out the show and find new artists. Like I remember after I watched the show that they were on, I did check out the other artists, so like Eric Joe and like other like singers. Yeah, like so it really is very effective, the way that they do that. So I am curious to see in the future if they do get more artists kind of coming to these countries and filming for these shows, because it's a really effective way of kind of getting themselves more on the international stage, definitely.
For us, it was Dara.
Yeah.
Dara was like a judge or mentor. And then for the other show, it was Catriona Gray, Miss Universe. Like, and they become, like what you guys said, like, people watch the program at first for the mentor. Then they get into the groups.
Because for Idol Producer, which is like the first audition program in China, I think Lei EXO from EXO, he was actually the
Mentor.
I think it's the MC or mentor, I forgot. So he was actually in the show with this kind of Chinese idols who debuted in Korea. When they return to mainland China, they can actually kind of attract the maybe Korean fans, and also kind of bring their skills to the trainee in China also.
So is there anything else that you wanted to address about on this podcast?
I feel like Hong Kong idol groups and audition programs, they are somehow redefining the definition of what an idol means, because I don't know if the age of the Filipinos contestant in the audition programs is also like kind of young, because some of the contestants in Hong Kong's audition program is like maybe 30 years old, or even over 30. So of course they actually receive quite a lot of criticism from the general public and netizens, and be like, oh, you're already 30, how come you still have this kind of dream of being an idol? How dare you have this kind of dream like that? But I'm really impressed by their courage and confidence of performing on the stage, and they finally really debuted as an idol. So it's really very encouraging to see how these contestants, despite they are already like over 30, they are still really trying hard in the contest with other contestants who are only maybe in the 20s or like 10s like that. And then apart from the age difference comparing to like K-pop idols, I think also the audition program in Hong Kong, sometimes they will perform dramas and musicals. But then in Korea, it's actually the contestant of the audition programs only dance, sing, and rap, right? They often divide it into these three categories, but in Hong Kong, it's not really that like divided. So in some of the competition, the contestant they will write their own script for a drama and they will perform. It's very interesting. So that's why I feel like acting is also considered as a very important element of what makes an idol. An idol.
Kind of an all-rounder type
kind
of
you need to
feel.
be really all-round, similar to the case of Philippines, I guess.
The first ones though, we have like mega stars. Like that's the nicknames we give our artists, like mega stars, star for all seasons. Like, so you really have to be
live up to it.
Yeah, like if you're a mega star, what kind of star are you? Like, but it's the same too. That's so cool. Like, that's so interesting that the age isn't really that important. I think in the Philippines it also isn't as important, but most people are still young, so there hasn't really been anyone like past 30 yet, I think, to like be in an idol group. But now I think the challenge for what I really wanted to point out was like P-pop itself, which is influence from K-pop, it's really hard for Filipinos to think of their own artistry, like to produce their own music nowadays, because there is the big bad corporations. Like the people want to think about what sells. So of course, what's the easiest way? What sells now? What's the trend now? It's K-pop. So now there are groups like wanting to copy the K-pop formula, wanting to be like K-pop groups. But since we've moved, since it's also much more apparent now that Filipinos will support their own, I think P-pop groups have to live up to that certain standard of what makes it not just a copy of K-pop. So I'm really curious what to see, because K-pop is a soft power in the Philippines. Like it's a way for Korean culture to spread in their country, and it's worth. Like everyone, it's really we have Korean food everywhere. There's like samgyeopsals every 10 blocks. Like it's literally everywhere. So I'm just curious to see how it develops more into its own, like P-pop as a genre. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for joining me on this podcast today.
Thank you too.
That's